Okay, so today I want to talk about denying force. Biet Simkin, I'm just reading her book, and it's called Don't Just Sit There, 44 Insights to Get Your Meditation Practice Off the Cushion and Into the Real World. Well, one of the first things I read is about denying force. And she says this is any difficulty, big or small, that pushes you to give up or change course. Now, this is applicable to my life right now because right now I'm making a follow-up video to my follow-up video that I was unable to upload. My second video that hasn't been uploaded yet talks a lot about my experience with TMS, what led up to me burning those books, and it tells my story of all the suffering I went through and all the things that the story that I really don't like anymore and I don't enjoy telling that much. Although, you do tell it just to let people know they're not alone, and to show them that you understand, what they're going through so we can move forward and we can start this real journey of healing. So I made that video. The audio on it got messed up because I didn't use a mic. There's some things I need to learn still about making these videos apparently, but I'll get it figured out as time goes on. So I'm talking with Steve Ozenich, and he's actually going to try to help me get that video fixed so we can put it out and upload it with my first video, because they go really well together, and I think I did a good job on that second one. So hopefully I won't have to go through that whole story again, at least not anytime too soon, but we'll see. Today I have some other things I want to talk about regarding TMS, and so I'm going to do that. I was going to wait until that one was uploaded, but it's taken too long, and I got some things I need to get off my chest today, and I think it could be helpful to anybody who's learning about this stuff currently. So I got to talk with Steve. We actually had a Zoom chat, and we got to talk for a couple hours the other day, and one thing I thought was pretty funny that I talked with him about was how it's when you figure out that TMS is not just your physical pain. So physical symptoms are one thing you can focus on. But when you learn, that nothing's wrong with your body and eventually your physical symptoms all go away, well, then you find out that your mind can use anything as a distraction from your thoughts and emotions. So I was talking with Steve. So one example I was talking about is how, so in his book, Healing Back Pain Permanently, he did a tricky little thing that really got in my head, where he says, pick your poison, and he lists yoga, exercise, and breathing exercises. Now, these are three things that I love, and he has them as pick your poisons, and, that really got into my head, and I'm like, oh man, am I doing this wrong? And and what you realize is that it all depends on your motivation for why you're doing something. So, nothing is necessarily bad, but it's when you're using it to try to specifically get rid of a symptom, and in this case a physical symptom. So I had to realize that, I love doing yoga, and I do it for other reasons. I don't do it for stretching or even necessarily just for my physical body. I do it because it just makes me feel good spiritually and emotionally. But when I read that, I went into just a whirlwind tailspin of just craziness, trying to figure out what he was talking about. Why would he say, these things that are so good? I mean, obviously yoga's a good thing, exercise is a good thing. Obviously these things, breathing is a good thing to do. It's necessary. So why would he say this? And then I go in and I start worrying about it, and eventually what I realize is, oh, this is what your mind is attaching to. It's the worry. The worry is the TMS. So, and when I told Steve that, he said, let me see what he said. Oh yeah, so he said, yeah, it doesn't care what it attaches to. So it's anything that can distract you. And it can be pretty tricky. Yesterday I wrote, the level of insanity that plays out in the mind when it is determined to have a distraction is absolutely remarkable. And it really is. So I've recently experienced this pretty awesome thing where I literally have zero physical symptoms, nothing going wrong with my body. But apparently I still do have some need for a distraction because I'm seeing it play out in really weird other ways. So an example of this is, it's kind of almost embarrassing, but this is what your mind can do when it needs a distraction. So for me recently, it was like I decided to go to Macy's and get some new pants. Well, I leave the store, I think they're pretty good, but then I get home, try them on, and it's like, oh, these don't fit quite right. And then I cannot get that out of my head. Cannot get it out of my head. And they fit pretty decent, but it was like, it's just once it gets stuck, you cannot get your mind off of it. So what do? So I go all the way back to Macy's across town, try on another pair of pants, and I'm like, oh, now these ones are too big. So anyways, I end up leaving the store with the exact same pair of pants that I walked in there with, thinking, oh, they're fine, you were just tripping out. Well, I get home, and the thought comes back. So anyways, long story short, I go to Macy's the third time, exchange them. Now, in the process of doing this, I also get a pair of new sunglasses, and within minutes of leaving the sunglass store, I've decided that something's wrong with this sunglasses. Now, this is only to show you that your mind just will start just finding things to panic about because it's trying to avoid something that it's actually worried about. And, and I kind of figured it out in this case, like I'm worried about that other video because I really want to upload it. I really want it to put it out there to help people. And so my mind's just frantically like finding all these things that don't matter to try to concentrate on. So anyways, that was what I was experiencing recently. So you really got to start to notice what is my mind attaching to that doesn't matter at all. It's not that big of a deal, but it's hyper focusing on becoming neurotic about this so that's what your pain is. But when you get past your pain, your mind will still attempt to do it with other things. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Let's see if I had anything else here. So I had written down, so I've been through a lot of addictions. Pain was one of them. And for me it was substance addictions too. In earlier years it was drugs, and then it was alcohol. And I've been able to experience these falling away. So I don't really have any substance addictions at all anymore. Pain is gone. So now it's these behavioral addictions that start coming out. And so I had written down yesterday, it seems as though each addiction becomes increasingly uncomfortable until you just don't even want to do it anymore. And then whatever emotions or thoughts you were attempting to avoid with said addiction are waiting there for you. So this is why Eckhart Tolle had said, every addiction starts and ends in pain. So it starts with you trying to avoid pain, and then when the addiction gets more painful, or just as painful as the original pain, you eventually give up the addiction, and then your thoughts and emotions are still waiting for you. And oftentimes, they've gotten worse in the meantime, while you've just been going after this addiction. So all it is it's trying, your mind's eye it's too hard for you to focus on what you're worried about. So for me, it was this video. It still is. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I'm deciding to proceed with what I want to do anyways. But that was I think that's what I was really trying to get my mind off of, and still am. So it is the need to divert the mind's eye from pain. So this is the symptom imperative that Dr. Sarno talks about. The symptom imperative is something that's demanding attention. So something you need to do right now. So for me, when a pair of pants don't fit, my mind goes, you need to go back to the store. You need to get the ones that fit now. If the sunglasses, these don't look quite right. I don't like how the lenses are. I need to go back and return them now. And then when I return them, the ones I get then are still going to bug me. It's because it's just a distraction. It doesn't really matter what it is. And so that's really what I want to talk to you mostly about today, is that it's the need for a distraction. So TMS, your pain is a distraction. Once you need to just start seeing where you are getting distracted, where you're losing, what are you trying to avoid? What's going on in your life that is requiring this distraction? So, and it's either a sick joke or it's just comical. I know when you're experiencing, pain, or when you're experiencing these behavioral weird addictions with food or whatever it is, it doesn't feel funny. It feels extremely, extremely uncomfortable. But if you can step back, you can just chuckle because you're like, oh my God, I don't know. It's really just weird. So I want to end this one today with a quote that's a tongue twister, but I'm going to try to get it. And it's from Lemmy, who's the lead singer of a band called Motorhead. And I feel like this really describes our mind's insistence on a distraction. So the quote goes, "Dogged insolence in the face of mounting opposition to the contrary."